friends, this is DJ T and welcome back to the next episode of Speak On It. So it's Halloween weekend and this is one of the craziest holidays ever. I just for the life of me don't get why people pay to be scared, right? Haunted houses and all those scary movies and things. I don't know why, but in the spirit of Halloween, I want to talk about what it is that we're scared of. What are our fears, right? It's one of those things that paralyzes us and that gets in the way of our success. But more importantly, I want to talk about how you actually get through those fears and one step closer to your dreams and goals. But before we do that, I think we have to just admit the fact that we have fears, right? We live in this real bravado kind of society that if you admit to being afraid of anything, you are less than a leader or are weak. And I'm guilty. One of my favorite hashtags is never scared, right? There is a song called Never Scared and it comes on and I go crazy, right? Because there is something about being strong and fearless and bold that just is motivating, and nobody wants to admit that they're afraid of anything, but in order to actually get past it, you have to first admit it. So in the next couple of minutes that we have, I want to share 3 tips on ways to move past your fears, because one of the things that I know is that if you truly want to be successful, you have to figure out a way to not allow that fear to paralyze you, to keep you stuck, because that's what happens when you get afraid. You freeze, right? And you don't do anything. And so I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. And so I'm just trying to share a couple of tips that's going to help us all move a little bit closer to our goals. So tip number 1 is to break it down. Last week I asked you all to think about your big, hairy, audacious goal, and I know that that can be overwhelming when you actually dream for real. But if you have that big, hairy, audacious goal, I want to encourage you to break it down into smaller goals, right? When you do that, it feels less overwhelming and you're less fearful. So for example, if I said, I want to be a nationally recognized speaker making $1 million a year, that might seem real overwhelming, especially if nobody knows my name and I'm making $50,000 a year, right? But if I broke it down into smaller steps, that feels a lot more manageable. So I could craft my speech, I could practice giving it, volunteering, I could get that feedback, I could refine it, do it again, I could join a speakers bureau, I could create a website, social media platform, set goals around number of followers at a 6-month mark, a 12-month mark. There's lots of things. And so those are the small steps that lead to that big, hairy, audacious goal. And so break it down. That's tip number 1. So tip number 2 is to build your fear muscle. And what do I mean by that? So fear happens when you are uncomfortable, right? And we typically live in our comfort zone. And we talk about this, getting out of your comfort zone. Well, that's where fear happens, is when you're starting to do something that you are uncomfortable with. But guess what? That is also the space where success lives, right? And so you have to get comfortable with being in that space. And so I want to encourage you to practice building that muscle by doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable every day, whatever that is. It might be speaking in public. It might be picking up the phone and calling and apologizing to a friend or family member, even if you weren't wrong. It might be, I don't know what it is, but find something that you are uncomfortable with. A small thing, something that's safe, right? Low risk, but do that. And I guarantee you that you're gonna build that muscle, and the strength to do those small things is the exact strength that it takes to do the very big things that you're dreaming of. So tip number 3 in terms of moving past the fear and getting unstuck is really not about moving past it, but about embracing it. And so I want to encourage you to rethink fear, because it can be a huge motivator and the reason why you are successful. I just shared that fear and success live in the same space. They go hand in hand. So embrace it and use it for your good. And so as I close, I'll share with you just a personal fear of mine. And that is an extreme fear of being poor, or falling back into a life of poverty. And I don't know why it's so paralyzing for me, but what it has done in a positive way is it has turned into an incredibly strong work ethic that I have. And you'll hear me, if you know me, you'll hear me say things like, no excuses, I'll find a way or make one, by any means necessary. And those are not just words or hashtags or fancy phrases. those are the values that I live my life by, because I am so afraid of not being able to take care of myself or my daughter or provide for her, or living that life that I've tried so hard to run away from in terms of financial stability. And so whatever it is that you're fearful of, see if you can turn that into a motivator. So as I close, I want to ask you all to speak on it. What is your greatest fear? And what is it that you do to move past it, to get closer to your dreams and goals? If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, put a comment below, hashtag speak on it, and share with us what it is that you're doing in hopes of motivating and encouraging someone else. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Sunday at 6.